there's one qualification to questions. It has to be a question, okay? If you make a statement, I'm going to cut you off. I'll be the teacher in the front of the classroom that cuts you off. So, right, Gilly, right back.
Hello, thank you for being here. My question is, for those schools that will come under the Achievement District, what will the Achievement District look like? What will the structure be for those schools that are going under?
That's a great question. Well, it's going to evolve over time. So for this first year, well, let me go back. So last year was really supposed to be planning it for the Achievement School District, but with the transition, with the governor, with Kevin starting when he did, my ability to start when I could, we're really going to take part of this to plan out exactly what that looks like. In the meantime, we're going to be co-managing 5 campuses. So I don't know how much you guys know about the Achievement School District, but the way the legislation is written is there's really 3 options within the ASD. One is to co-manage schools, which is basically an MOU with the district or with the school, where we can bring some human capital partners to the table, try and provide some direct and indirect resources back to the school. And it's really kind of the lightest touch of the 3 options. The second is actually a charter school. So this last legislative session, we were given the authority to actually create charter schools within the ASD for kids that are zoned to ASD schools to start creating some choices and options for those families. And we actually released that application my first day on the job. So it's on the first to the top website, and we'll be authorizing our first round of charters probably in early to mid-November. And then the third option is to direct run schools, where we're actually going in, we're hiring the principal, we're hiring the teachers, we're giving people that are there the opportunity to reapply for their jobs, and we directly run that campus. And we will do that for a minimum of 5 years, hopefully creating some conditions and some freedoms and some flexibilities so that we can get the school back on track. And my goal, and as we build out our team's goal is that every single school in the Achievement School District by year 3 is operating at the same level as the highest performing school in that system. And by year 5, it's operating at the same level as the highest performing school in the state. And I think the last thing to say about this is that, I've been doing this for 19 years, and what I've learned about education is that it's not rocket science, but it's really hard work. It takes a great leader with a great staff that builds a great culture and sets high expectations for kids, and then does what it takes to get the kids, no matter where they show up in the building, to those expectations. That's the blueprint. Doing that day in and day out is very, very difficult work. And so we're committed to making sure that work happens and that work continues to happen. And then we're working, as partners with the schools in the district so that we get the schools to the point where every single one of us will be proud to put our own child in that school.
Mr. Secretary.
If I could just add quickly, I don't know all the details of the plans. I do have tremendous confidence and faith in Chris and what he's done in the past is just extraordinary. Let me just take a moment to say why I think this work is so important. And I'm obsessed with dropout rates because I just think in today's economy there are no good jobs out there for high school jobs. They're basically condemned to poverty and social failure. We have 1 million young people each year in this country who are going on that track. And so what we have to do is we have to figure out those schools that are disproportionately contributing to poverty and social failure in communities. And when I talk about 1 million young people dropping out, it's actually pretty interesting. There are only about 2,000 high schools, not that many, we have 100,000 schools in this country. 2,000 high schools produce half our nation's dropouts and 75% from our African American Latino community. And so again, this is a place where I think we've shown a tremendous lack of courage as a country. This is not talking about 50% of schools or 80% of schools in an Achievement School District. This is talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% at the very bottom of schools where it's just simply not working for the children, for the community, for the adults. And if Tennessee can help lead the way in terms of transforming educational opportunities in those places where we're just not getting good enough outcomes, I can't overemphasize how important that is. This is going to be the hardest, the most controversial, the toughest work we're going to do, but the dividends for children and communities are absolutely staggering. And again, whatever we can do to help and to learn from you will be a good part of it. We want to do that. But there'll be lots of pushback. There'll be lots of folks saying why it can't happen. There'll be lots of folks protecting the status quo. But you guys have to push through that.
It might help maybe to give us your name too when you ask the question.
Sure. Welcome everyone. My name is Brian Straheen. I'm the school counselor here at Weston Ivy World School. Thanks for being here. I'm sure we all could agree that our children face a lot of unbelievable challenges in their daily lives. So I was wondering if you could talk a bit about the role of the school counselor as it relates to academic achievement, but more specifically, the school counselor and the staff's role in promoting their emotional development, which I think is key to ultimately seeing achievement academically.
I'd just like to share my thoughts on that. I appreciate your question, although I haven't given a lot of thought to that topic. I do think overall that, I know when I'm in the classroom, I feel inadequate in those ways. And so I think that that's a key piece that we could consider when we look at investing in children in our future is how can we train our professionals who work in schools with children to be prepared for those kinds of challenges. We know, as you say, that so many kids come to us with needs that frankly I was not prepared to deal with when I got my education. And so that when I talk about investment in schools and in professionals who work in the schools, that's a piece of it.
I can't overstate how important the role of counselors and social workers are, and I worry a lot about these tough economic times, but unfortunately some of those positions are often the first that we lose. And children need help at any time. I think children are under more pressure for more different things at an earlier age than ever before, and whether it's violence, whether it's bullying, whether it's drugs and alcohol, whether it's hunger today, there's a sort of, for me, there's a series of basic fundamental things we have to do to start to talk about academic achievement. If our children are hungry, it's hard to concentrate in class. We have to feed them. They can't see the blackboard. We need to get them eyeglasses. If they're scared, if they're in fear in school, at recess, at lunch, to and from school, it's hard to concentrate. And so school communities with social workers and counselors leading it, but principals and teachers and custodians and everybody else and neighbors helping students get to and from school safely. If those building blocks aren't in place, it's hard to talk about AP physics and chemistry and going to college. And so creating that foundational set of skills and resiliency in young people with more coming at them than ever before, I can't overstate the importance.
Good morning, Michael, and Superintendent of Williamson County Schools. Thank you for being here. My question is twofold, specifically for the Secretary. First, could you speak to your thought process as it relates to the proposed waivers of NCLB guidelines and the timeline associated with it? And then secondly, Senator Harkin and some constituents have a proposed piece of legislation related to fully funding IDEA. Could you speak to the department's position on that? Thank you.
So I'll take the second one first. Fully funding IDEA. IDEA is desperately underfunded in states and districts around the country. When I ran Chicago Public Schools, my unfunded piece of that was about $770 million a year that I have to find ways to fill. So I'm more than acutely aware of that. My honest opinion is, given the political reality in Washington now, I'm not super optimistic about IDEA being fully funded. And you have a set of folks in Washington now who don't believe in public education, who think we just need to cut. And I just think of public education as an investment, not as an expense. But that is not a view that is shared by everyone. We need to make sure we're getting results. We need to make sure we're driving reform. But you have a set of political leaders, unfortunately, now who just really want to cut back as much as we can. And that makes it difficult to make the investments, whether it's an IDA or anything else that we want to do. On the waiver process, quite frankly, I wish we didn't have to go down this route. We desperately wanted Congress to reauthorize No Child Left Behind. It is fundamentally broken, I think, today. We want them to reauthorize in a bipartisan way and work together in a common sense set of solutions. As much as the law is broken, Congress, I think, is equally broken now. And so I just felt compelled to act. And we're going to provide waivers to states. We're going to have a high bar, college and career standards, thoughtfulness around teacher-principal evaluation, which the governor mentioned, a willingness to turn around low-performing schools. I think Tennessee is going to be in a great position to apply for that. We will put out the final guidance probably in the next month, sometime after Labor Day. We'll take the next couple of weeks to have a series of conversations with folks to get their input, and then we're going to turn those around absolutely as quickly as we can. They'll be peer-reviewed, and this one is not a competition between states. We want every state who's interested to work with us, to work together, to get this done, and we're going to move as quickly as we can, but have a very fair and open and transparent process.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Henry. I'm president of the Metropolitan National Education Association and also serve on the TDA and NEA Board of Directors. Race to the Top was awarded to Tennessee in part because of the strong collaborative relationship that existed between teachers, school boards, state government. With this past legislative session, the attacks on teachers, much of that was all but eroded. What is, Secretary Duncan, what is the department's response to the General Assembly for their role in destroying collaboration?
So my response is that we cannot have a great education system in Tennessee or anyplace else if we don't have everyone at the table working hard on this. So whether it's unions, whether it's the business community, whether it's the philanthropic community, this has to be a statewide effort. Parents, teachers, everyone at the table. And I think the voice of teachers, the voice of unions is critical to getting where we need to go. And so I would encourage the Tennessee leadership to listen to everyone, and we're not going to agree on every issue, you have disagreements, but if we're talking about long-term systemic change, I don't see how you get there without having teachers at the table helping to shape that and understanding the challenges going forward. I think it's critically important. It's something we'll watch very, very closely as we move forward.
We'll work our way back over our comments.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Bass, former public school teacher and current staff member for Greater Nashville Teaching America. We've already touched on the significance of and criticality of having highly qualified teachers in classrooms. What are you doing, what are we doing to recruit and more importantly to retain the kinds of teachers that our students need?
Kevin, I'll let you go ahead. It's a great question, but let me just interrupt. I think that is the challenge, is how do we talk that sharp 20-year-old, 21, 22-year-old into thinking, I want to be an educator for my life? And I think your question is right on point. Kevin?
Thanks for the question. I think it's of critical importance, and Chris alluded earlier to the fact that we have to do everything we can to fill the pipeline with the most talented people that we can find and encourage them. I think we have a couple of challenges. So one is that we don't do enough to actively recruit people to become teachers in the first place. And so typically colleges and universities tend to let people self-select into becoming a teacher, and sometimes that's great, sometimes it's less great, but what we're definitely doing is leaving a lot of talent on the table. They're not going out and actively saying to people, we're not planning to become teachers, you should become a teacher, here's the value proposition, here's why you should do it. The other thing is that there's not actually a correlation between the quality of our programs and the size of our programs. And this is not just a Tennessee issue, it's a national issue. But so across the state, we have some programs that are doing exceptional work in providing teachers, but they're not necessarily the biggest programs. We haven't done enough to figure out how we build a correlation between the quality of the program and the scale of the program in terms of number of teachers we provide. And then on the attrition front, I would say, again, attrition is not correlated with teacher quality right now. And so we lose some great people, we lose some people who probably are finding other things to do, and that's fine. But there needs to be a correlation. When people are great teachers, we need to be keeping them in the field of education, either as teachers or building a pipeline for them to become school leaders or to work in school districts in other capacities. And so I think the evaluation system will help us do that, because at this point in time, we don't even know when people leave what the caliber is of the people that we're losing. And I think having some ability to measure whether there's a correlation between attrition and quality is a really important first step then in figuring out what the solution is to the challenge.
Gera.
I certainly agree with the Commissioner's ideas about pairing teachers and recruiting and making sure that we get some of our best minds choosing teaching as a profession. And I do want to question something that is down the pipeline, so to speak, and that is I worry that some of the only opportunities for teachers to improve in their field or to advance in their field is to go into school leadership and administration or to leave the classrooms. And I think that we run the risk of losing some of our best classroom people into the leadership pipeline. So certainly school leadership is critical. We do need to recruit people who make sure that we find ways of rewarding and recognizing and providing room for advancement within the classroom sessions as well.
I think that's really well said. I think that's one of the big challenges facing education is the way you advance to get a master's degree or go to administration, neither of which maybe helps the classroom as much as we'd like it to. Anybody else anything to add? Okay, there's over here in the blue shirt, the girl has been incredibly
This is going to have to be the
patient.
last question.
Hi, my name is Malia. I went to Talent to 10th Youth Leadership Program. And when Race to the Top launched, states like Minnesota increased the number of charter schools they allowed in their state. And I was wondering how that made a state more eligible for Race to the Top funds.
Minnesota didn't actually win any funds, so. What I fundamentally believe in is, historically been lots of conflict between charter schools and district schools. And I think that conflict just totally misses the boat. I just want more good schools in this country. More good traditional schools, more good schools. I love the IB curriculum here. More good magnet schools, more good charter schools. And I think good charter schools are part of the solution. Bad charter schools are part of the problem. Good traditional schools are part of the solution. Bad traditional schools are part of the problem. These are all false dichotomies, I think, false debates. It's part of what I struggle with in the education world. I think we fight about the silliest things. And I always say, if you're a 7-year-old, you don't know if you go to a charter school or a gifted school or neighborhood school, whatever. Does my teacher care about me? Am I learning? Is it a great school? Does the principal know who I am? I just want a lot more schools that look like that, and a lot less schools that look like something else. There are charter schools that are very bad, and you need to close them down. You have charter schools like Barbic ran that I think are absolutely extraordinary. I think we're seeing success we need to replicate. I also think we're seeing success with district schools. Districts haven't been as creative as I would like at innovating and replicating their successful schools. One of the things I started doing in Chicago is not just expand charters, successful charters, we started to actually replicate, have a second and third campus of successful district schools. And so I think these are all false debates. We just need a lot more good schools in this country, whatever form or fashion it might be.